My name is Elizabeth Soto, and I never thought I would share this. Not with you. Not with anyone. But a vow is a vow, and the vow burns hotter than my fear. There are things I have seen, things I begged heaven to erase from my memory. But he would not let me forget. He whispered into my bones, "Keep speaking. The truth must be told." And so I speak, not because I am brave, not because I am holy, but because silence would make me a liar before God. I tremble even now remembering. The night he came, the night the veil tore open before my eyes. A date seared into my spirit, a shadow etched into my waking hours. Before September 20th, the ground itself will heave with sorrow. I swore if I lived I would tell you. So I stand here now, candle in the dark, speaking into the silence. Listen to me. Every word is a seed of fire. Every word is a vow kept. He called my name in the dark, and I am still burning. Keep speaking. The truth must be told. Keep speaking. The truth must be told. Keep speaking. The truth must be told. I never thought I'd share this, but I must, because the hour is nearer than you think. Before the night, everything shifted. My life looked ordinary. A routine carved by habit, not by love. I woke each morning to the sound of an alarm, not to the sound of prayer. I poured my coffee, strong and bitter, and sipped it as though it could keep my soul awake. But in truth, I was asleep. I drove through traffic like a ghost among ghosts, watching faces blurred in windows, hands gripping wheels, everyone moving but no one alive. I answered emails that meant nothing. I chased deadlines that dissolved as quickly as they arrived. And inside me, there was a hollow. It was the kind of hollow you don't name out loud. The kind that follows you into crowded rooms and whispers while you smile. The kind that makes birthdays slip by unnoticed, anniversaries forgotten, prayers cut short because the words feel too heavy. I told myself I was fine, but heaven saw the truth. I was drifting further each day. Even in church, I lifted my hands but my heart stayed heavy. I sang the songs but could not feel the fire. The altar felt far, and I further still. And yet, beneath all that numbness, there was a trembling, a sense I could not shake. The air itself felt charged, like lightning before a storm. The quiet hum of unease followed me into every room. Something was off. Something was waiting. I knew it in the way my chest tightened without reason. I knew it in the way silence grew too loud at night. I knew it in the way I could not rest, even when my body lay still. You were brought here to remember. That refrain beats against my ribs even now. You were brought here to remember. Remember that life is not traffic and coffee and empty calendars. Remember that prayer cannot be traded for performance. Remember that the hollow was a warning, not a curse. I did not know it then, but heaven was preparing me, softening the soil of my soul for a fire that would either consume me or save me. I thought I was simply tired. I thought I was simply busy. But now I see I was being watched. Every forgotten birthday, every shallow prayer, every weary sigh, they were being written down in the book of my days. A story not yet finished. A story about to break open. He called my name in the dark. And in that dark, every hollow place was exposed. You were brought here to remember. You were brought here to remember. You were brought here to remember. I see now, the ordinary was not ordinary at all. It was the silence before the trumpet, the pause before the fire, and I was walking straight into it. And then it came. The moment that tore the veil. The moment that pulled me from the hollow into the fire. I remember it not as a single flash, but as a slow unraveling of time. 1 second I was walking, breathing, moving as though tomorrow was promised. And the next, my chest clenched like a hand of iron. Air grew thin. The ground tilted beneath me. The world around me blurred as though painted in water. I fell, and with the falling came silence. A silence so deep it roared in my ears. Colors stretched, sound fractured, time slowed into drops of eternity. I saw people rushing, faces bent in panic, lips moving, but no voice reached me. The sound of their cries dissolved into distance. My heart thundered once, twice, then faltered. And with that faltering, the tether began to break. I remember looking down, seeing my own body. The vessel I had called me for so long, now lying helpless, eyes half open, breath shallow, skin paling. And I thought, is this the end? But instead of terror, a strange peace washed over me. It was as if the fear was stripped away, torn off like an old garment. The weight of the world fell silent, and I rose, above the panic, above the body, above the noise. I was hovering, weightless, detached, a witness to my own unraveling. I saw the frantic hands trying to help me. I saw tears forming in eyes that once looked past me. But none of it reached me. None of it mattered. Because another voice, another presence was nearer. Closer than breath. Closer than blood. He called my name in the dark. And in that calling I knew this was not the end. This was the crossing. The air around me shimmered like liquid light. Walls dissolved. Shadows melted. And a tunnel stretched before me, not carved of stone, but woven of living flame and luminous song. As I drifted upward, as my body fell further away, I heard it, a refrain echoing through eternity. They were chosen. They were chosen. They were chosen. The words rolled like thunder, yet whispered like a mother's voice. Not condemnation, not despair, but destiny. I realized then, this moment of death was not about ending. It was about unveiling, the stripping away of all that was shallow, numb, ordinary, the beginning of what had always been waiting. My fear dissolved completely. Every regret, every shame, every hollow ache fell away like ash in the wind. And what remained was simple, light, peace, the sound of eternity pressing close. I drifted further, carried by a current I did not resist. I was no longer tied to breath or bone. I was no longer the person who drank bitter coffee and forgot birthdays. I was something else now, a soul awakening. And as I rose, one truth grew louder, pressing against the marrow of my being. They were chosen, not just me, not just a few, but millions. The ones marked, the ones waiting, the ones about to be shaken awake. I was passing through the door of crisis into the threshold of eternity. And there, in the hush between two worlds, I knew nothing would ever be the same. They were chosen. They were chosen. They were chosen. That was the hour my death became my awakening. The hollow was gone, and the fire had begun. As I drifted further from the body, further from the panic, I felt the fabric of the world split open. What lay beyond was not darkness, but light. A light so alive it seemed to breathe. I was being drawn through a passage, not a tunnel of stone, not a corridor of shadow, but a river of pure energy. Its walls glowed like woven fire, yet its touch was tender as a mother's hand. It sang as it moved. Yes, the light itself was singing. And the song was not in words. It was language made of vibration, music that entered not the ears but the marrow. Every note told me, you are not lost. You are not late. You are home. I floated within that current, weightless, free. The fear I once carried was gone. The hollow I once endured was filled. The silence I once feared became a sanctuary. I cannot describe it fully, our language is too small. But it was warmth without burning. It was stillness without emptiness. It was peace that did not end. And as I passed deeper into that river of light, I saw them. Figures emerging like silhouettes within fire. Souls. Some I knew, faces I had buried, voices I thought I'd never hear again. Their eyes met mine, and in that instant, memory and eternity collided. No introductions were needed, no words exchanged. Recognition was immediate, complete. Love bound us together in ways that earth never allowed. And then there were others, souls unknown to me, yet somehow known. Ancient presences whose gaze pierced me with familiarity, as if I had walked with them before time itself began. No questions were asked, no answers demanded, only belonging. I realized then, this realm was not about separation. It was about oneness. The veil of names, borders, and boundaries had fallen away. All that remained was love, and it was overwhelming. It pressed against me like an ocean wave. It filled my chest until I could hardly bear it. It dissolved every defense I had built in my earthly life. The shame, the striving, the masks, all gone. Only love, unconditional, unrelenting, infinite. And through it all, one refrain moved like wind through the trees, like fire through the temple. You were brought here to remember. You were brought here to remember. Remember who you are. Remember who he is. Remember why you were sent to earth in the first place. Tears, if I could call them that, fell, though no body remained to weep. It was as though my soul itself was breaking open in gratitude. I belonged. I was seen. I was loved beyond measure. The further I moved, the more the light swelled, until it was not around me but within me. I was not just passing through this realm. I was becoming part of it. Every particle of my being hummed with the same song, the same radiance, the same eternal breath. And yet, even in the awe, even in the peace, there was an undercurrent, a trembling in the air, a holy expectation, as if someone greater than all this was drawing near. He called my name in the dark, and now, the dark was gone, yet his voice remained. Calling, summoning, preparing. You were brought here to remember. You were brought here to remember. You were brought here to remember. And as I floated deeper into the river of light, surrounded by souls, wrapped in love, I knew I was approaching the heart of eternity. The one who waited there was greater than the light, greater than the song, greater than love itself. And I was being drawn to him. I do not know how to describe the moment without trembling even now. It was not thunder. It was not fire. It was not the kind of presence that shakes the mountains and splits the sea. No, when he came, it was quieter than breath, but heavier than eternity. I felt him before I saw him. A weight pressed into my chest, not to crush me, but to reveal me. My secrets were no longer secrets. My heart had no hiding place. And then I knew. Without announcement, without introduction, I knew. Christ was here. His presence was not an arrival. It was as if he had always been here, waiting, patient as the stars, watching the unfolding of my small life. His eyes, I cannot describe them without breaking. His eyes were not eyes, they were knowing. To look into them was to be seen, to be undone, to be healed all in the same gaze. In that glance, I lived again every kindness I had shown, every cruelty I had hidden, every wasted moment, every quiet mercy. My whole life was gathered into a single breath, and I could not argue, I could not excuse, I could only weep. He called my name in the dark. The words were not sound. They were knowing. They were the truth naming me, the truth wrapping around me like fire that did not burn. I heard him without ears. I felt him without touch. And in the silence of eternity, his voice broke me open. You were brought here for a reason. The words were not a sentence. They were a commission. They were a vow carved into the marrow of my being. They fell into me like stones dropped into still water, and the ripples are still moving, even now as I speak to you. I wanted to stay. I confess to you, I wanted to lay my head there forever. To remain in that gaze where nothing is hidden, nothing is wasted, nothing is lost. But love does not let us stay where comfort lulls us. Love sends. Love returns us to the places we ran from. Love is not escape, it is commission. And he spoke again, not in thunder, but in the stillness that breaks open the soul. You must go back. You must tell them. The truth must be told. The truth must be told. It echoed, it pierced. It lodged itself deeper than any wound, deeper than any memory. It was not suggestion. It was not invitation. It was command. A holy wound that I will carry until my final breath. The truth must be told. That phrase has haunted my waking and my sleeping. It is the rhythm under my heartbeat. It is the shadow behind every joy, the weight behind every word I now speak. It is why I cannot remain silent, why I speak to you now even if my voice shakes, even if the world mocks. Because I made a vow, if I lived through this, I would not bury it. I would not silence it. I would not smother it beneath comfort or pride. I would tell it, as raw and trembling as it is. He called my name in the dark. He showed me myself, not as I pretend to be, but as I am. He showed me love, not as I imagined it, but as it burns. He gave me no map, no manual, no script. Only this one sentence, this one vow, this one scar. The truth must be told. So I stand before you, haunted but whole, wounded but burning. I did not choose this. I did not dream this. I did not conjure this from hunger or grief. It was given. It was branded into me like fire, and now it consumes me. The truth must be told. Return to the fire. Return to the place of seeing. Return to the gaze that strips away your masks. Return to the voice that calls you in the dark. For this is why I came back. This is why breath still fills these lungs. This is why my heart still beats. Not for my own story, but for the truth entrusted to me. The truth must be told. I had thought the encounter would end there, in his gaze and the vow. in the fire that seared without consuming. But no, the encounter deepened. For once he had spoken, once he had carved the command into my spirit, the truth must be told, the visions began. It was not imagination. It was not dream. It was unveiling. The veil between what is and what waits to be was lifted, and I was made to see. The first vision was of cities. Towers that once glittered with pride now stood dark, their windows empty, their streets hollow. I saw silence in places that were once crowded with laughter, markets abandoned, children wandering without direction. A hush, not of peace, but of absence. The lights had gone out, not because of war, not because of fire, but because of blindness. A blindness that began in the soul and spread like shadow across the earth. The world must be shaken before it can be restored. Then I was carried to rivers. Mighty waters that once brought life now rose beyond their banks, devouring fields, swallowing villages, rushing into the bones of the land with no boundary. But the water was not clear. It was dark, thick, heavy, as if it carried the grief of generations. I knew in that moment, it was not the rivers that had betrayed us. It was we who betrayed them. Our greed, our ceaseless hunger, had unchained them. We had turned gifts into threats by forgetting the giver. The world must be shaken before it can be restored. I saw fields next. Fields that once sang with harvest stood still, mute as stone. No birds, no insects, no rustle of wheat. Just silence. The silence of absence, the silence of judgment. And yet, even here in the barren soil, I felt it. Hope buried, not dead. Seeds hidden, waiting for the rain. And then, as if the visions themselves were speaking, I heard, "This is not punishment. This is awakening." I trembled at those words. For my heart wanted to cry out, "Lord, why such sorrow? Why such shaking?" And yet the answer was given before my cry left my lips. The blindness of men, the abandonment of truth, the worship of self and greed. These had built a world that could not stand. And so, the shaking must come. Not to destroy, but to break open. Not to end, but to awaken. Before September 20th, a shaking will come. I repeat it because I must. Not for fear, not for spectacle, but because the command still burns in my marrow. Before September 20th, the world will tremble, and many will not understand. Many will mock. Many will call it chance. But those with ears will know. This was spoken. This was shown. This was unveiled. The world must be shaken before it can be restored. I confess to you I wept when I saw it. Not only for the world, but for the children, for the weary, for those who have never lifted their hands against heaven, yet will feel the trembling of the earth. My heart ached with grief, but in that grief, I also saw hope. For in the silence of the fields, I saw seeds that no hand could uproot. In the darkness of the cities, I saw candles lit by hidden ones. In the overflowing rivers, I saw baptism, washing away what greed had built. The shaking is not the end. It is the beginning. The time is now. Choose. The time is now. Choose truth over lies, mercy over pride, humility over hunger for power. Choose to return while there is still time. Choose to bend the knee before the trembling forces you to fall. Choose not from fear, but from love. He called my name in the dark, and I must call yours now before the day arrives. Not to terrify, but to awaken. Not to wound, but to remind you. Seeds are still in the ground, light is still in the remnant, rivers can still cleanse. The time is now. Choose. The world must be shaken before it can be restored. I say it again, as I was commanded. Before September 20th, a shaking will come. Let it not find you unprepared. Let it not find you blind. Let it not find you clutching what cannot save. Return to the fire. Return to the gaze that strips and heals. Return to the one who calls you by name in the dark. For I have seen it. I have carried it. And I can no longer keep silent. The truth must be told. After the trembling visions of darkness, after the fields that fell silent and the rivers that broke their banks, I thought I would be left with nothing but sorrow. Yet just as despair threatened to swallow me, another unveiling began. A countervision, like dawn breaking through the night. I saw candles. 1, then 2, then 1,000. Each flame small, fragile, flickering in the winds of fear, yet none were extinguished. They burned in windows, in alleyways, in the hidden corners of broken cities. They burned in the hands of the forgotten, in the homes of the poor, in the gatherings of those who had nothing but faith left to offer. And I heard it again, echoing across eternity. They were chosen. Keep speaking. I saw neighbors sharing bread. Not bread from abundance, but bread broken from scarcity, divided as if heaven itself multiplied it in their hands. I saw the hungry fed, not by kings, not by governments, but by ordinary souls who chose mercy over despair. The world that trembled now began to pulse with a new rhythm, not of greed but of giving, not of hunger but of hope. I saw children leading their elders, their laughter piercing the silence of once desolate fields. I saw men laying down their weapons, women raising their voices in songs that felt older than the earth. I saw a new earth being born, not from power, not from pride, but from humility. And it was whispered into me like a vow etched on the heart. The brokenhearted and the humble will lead. Not the mighty, not the proud, not those who hoard the world's treasures, but those who have tasted loss and still chosen love. Those who have walked through darkness and still chosen light. Those who have heard their name called in the dark and answered, trembling, here I am. And I wept again, not with grief this time, but with hope so raw it felt like fire in my chest. For the visions of silence and ruin were not the end. They were the threshold. The shaking was not the grave. It was the birth pang. They were chosen. Keep speaking. The refrain echoed until it became part of me. It was not only a call, it was a command. To remind the weary that awakening is possible. To remind the hopeless that light is stronger than shadow. To remind the world that mercy will rule, that love will endure, that even in the ashes, life will rise again. And so I confess this to you as one who has seen both sides, the trembling and the awakening, the silence and the song. Yes, a shaking will come, but so will a rising. Yes, fields will fall silent, but so will seeds break forth. Yes, rivers will overflow, but so will mercy flood the earth. They were chosen. Keep speaking. That refrain still burns in my bones. It is why I stand here, voice trembling, spirit laid bare. For I have seen the dawn beyond the dark, and I must tell you, there is hope. There is always hope. Return to the fire. Return to the mercy that reshapes the world. Return to the calling that whispers your name in the dark. The brokenhearted will lead. The humble will rise. The chosen will keep speaking. And I, though unworthy, though weak, am bound by vow to carry this truth until my final breath. They were chosen. Keep speaking. I came back like a tide pulled suddenly ashore, ripped from an ocean, and left on a stranger's beach. One moment I was weightless and whole, the next my lungs remembered how to burn. The light of that other place still lived behind my eyes, and the hospital light felt thin by comparison, paper sun against something that had been true and eternal. I opened my eyes to beeping machines and the small, practical sounds of medicine. Cold hands, warm coffee, the rasp of a nurse's voice that sounded miles away. My mouth tasted of river song and ash. My fingers found my chest and felt the scar of a vow. The world smelled of antiseptic and laundry and the usual business of living. Everything ordinary rushed in to reclaim me. I tried to tell them. My words came out like broken glass, halting, sharp, too much for the daylight. I saw. I heard. He called my name in the dark, I said, and the phrase felt both sacrament and burden. People smiled politely. Doctors spoke in measured tones. Phones buzzed. Life wanted to schedule me back into its neat boxes. Some listened kindly, hands that held mine, eyes wet with prayer. These were small altars of grace. But many did not know how to stand in the presence of what I carried. They labeled it fever, hallucination, the mind's fragile invention when the body nearly dies. Their labels were soft but sharp. They cut away the rawness of the truth as if trimming a wound. When I spoke of the shaking I had seen, of cities dimming and rivers that remember, their faces closed like books. When I said, before September 20th, they grew still and said things like, we'll watch the news, as if truth could be handled by headlines. I felt the world gently push me back into its margins. My testimony was deemed an oddness, a private grief to be managed, not a summons to awaken. And with that dismissal came another kind of resistance, not merely unbelief, but a presence that pressed against the edges of the vow. Phones would die when I tried to record. Lights would flicker when I spoke in a room. A door would slam when I walked across a threshold. Small things at first, glitches, scratches, static, but they multiplied like shadows at dusk. It felt as though the world itself conspired to muffle the sound of the trumpet I had been given. At night, I would lie awake and feel a pressure at the window, an answering silence that was almost audible. Dreams turned sharp, whispers threaded through sleep like silk with iron in it. I would wake with my mouth full of words I could not keep. I would find my Bible open to a page I had not chosen. There were nights when a heaviness crowded the room, not cruel, simply intent, an insistence that obedience would cost me. And cost me it did. Old friends drifted. Invitations stopped arriving. The warm calls of concern cooled into distance. Some who once laughed with me now laughed at me. I lost work. I lost small comforts. I carried the price in quiet ways, broken plans, awkward silences, the slow unthreading of easy acquaintances. There were moments when loneliness sat in the chair beside me and made tea with me at dawn. It was costly in ways that do not show on bills. The cost of being refused, of being called alarmist or deluded, of being placed outside the comfortable crowd. And yet, in that very loneliness, there was a stubborn light. When friends retreated, strangers leaned in. When doors closed, a few windows opened. People whose hands were calloused with mercy, whose eyes were tired and true. A woman from down the street brought soup without questions. A child left a drawing by my bed that said only, remember. These were small sanctuaries. They kept the vow warm. Keep speaking. I heard within me the refrain like a drum under my ribs. Keep speaking, even when the world calls you quiet. Keep speaking, though the cost is loneliness. Keep speaking, because obedience is the altar on which truth is kept alive. The resistance was not always loud. Often it was polite. Often it arrived wrapped in concern. Take time, they said. Rest. Which I did. Rest as if rest could absolve a charge placed upon me. But respite was not surrender. Rest was a tool, not an excuse. I would sleep, collect strength, and then speak again. Tender, trembling, true. There were moments the pressure turned into shadowy fear, dreams of being silenced, of rooms growing cold, of tongues tied by invisible bands. Once in the quiet hour before dawn, my electricity failed, and the house was swallowed in dark. I sat with a candle and thought of the river of light that had carried me, and I repeated the refrain until the candle's flame seemed to answer. Keep speaking. Keep speaking. Keep speaking. Each repetition was a small rebellion against the silence. Each repetition was a prayer and a protest. For the vow had not been given for my comfort, but for the awakening of others. So when voices scoffed, I listened for the whisper of the one who had sent me. When doors closed, I knocked on other doors. When sleep pulled at my eyes, I prayed until dawn. I learned the anatomy of resistance, not as personal failure, but as evidence that the message was alive. If it stung, it meant it mattered. If it cost, it meant it cut toward healing. Obedience had a price. The price was exacting and often bitter. But it also salted the ground for something new to grow. He called my name in the dark. Even here, in hospitals, and in houses that smell of soup and bleach, that calling holds me upright. I am bruised. I am tired. I am mocked. I am loved. And still I speak. Keep speaking. I have carried this fire for so long, and now the hour has come when silence would be betrayal. So listen closely, because this is not mine to keep. There is a war for your soul. Not a metaphor, not a symbol, but a war real, unseen, merciless. I have felt its breath in the night. I have heard its whisper at the edge of prayer. And I must tell you, many will not survive it. Not because God has abandoned them, but because they will choose to sleep through the trumpet. The truth must be told. The time is now. Choose. I stand here trembling because what I saw was not meant for entertainment, not meant for idle curiosity. It was meant to pierce, to awaken, to tear away the veil. I saw souls drifting like ash, too distracted to notice the cliff beneath their feet. I saw hearts once aflame grown cold, drowning in the noise of lesser loves. And I heard the question ring again and again, who will return to the fire? He called my name in the dark. He called me back when I was running. He called me to speak when I wanted to be silent. And I vowed that if he let me live, if he let me see morning again, I would tell you. The truth must be told. The time is now. Choose. Do not think you have forever. Eternity presses in on every breath you take. There are only two roads, one that narrows into light and one that widens into ruin. I watched friends wander into ruin, laughing as they went, and I could not stop them. Their laughter still haunts me. But you still have time. You still have a choice. So hear me. Pray. Not once, not half-heartedly, but earnestly, as if your breath depended on it. Because it does. Reconcile. Forgive the ones who broke you. Ask forgiveness from the ones you broke. The weight is too heavy to carry into eternity. Serve. The poor are not a distraction. They are Christ in disguise, waiting at your gate. Return. Open the Gospels again, not as words on paper, but as the voice of the one who still calls your name. The truth must be told. The time is now. Choose. You may think this is coincidence, that you stumbled on these words by chance. But no, he chose you to hear this. You. Not another. Not later. Now. I cannot promise you comfort. I cannot promise you safety. But I can promise you this. If you return to the fire will not consume you. It will refine you. It will burn away the lies that bound you, and it will leave only what is eternal. So I speak it again as I heard it. There is a war for your soul. Do not sleep. Do not delay. Do not bargain with the dark. He called my name in the dark, and now he calls yours. The truth must be told. The time is now. Choose. The candle still burns in my memory, its fragile flame flickering against the weight of the dark. I see it now as I saw it then. Small, trembling but unyielding, a single spark against the abyss. And the clock, oh, the clock. Its hands move like thunder in silence, each tick an echo of eternity. Not one wasted, not one forgotten. Time was never mine to spend carelessly, it was always borrowed breath. And I still hear the child's laugh. That sound pure, untamed, like innocence before it is broken. It cuts through me now, not with sorrow alone, but with longing. Longing for the day when laughter will never fade, when light will never dim, when love will never die. But until then, this war remains. And I tell you again, this isn't just my story, it's yours. Do not turn away as if it belongs to another. The fire calls you. The silence presses you. The same clock ticks for your soul. So I ask you, will you rise, or will you remain asleep? Will you bury the call in the noise of tomorrow, or will you answer while the candle still burns? Will you let your heart turn to ash, or will you let the fire refine you into gold? The truth must be told. The time is now. Choose. I cannot make the choice for you. Love does not coerce, it only calls. But if you can hear my voice, if these words reach you, it means the door has not yet closed. It means mercy is still near. So remember, when the night is long, remember. When the silence is heavy, remember. When the world tells you there is no need to change, remember. A whisper will come, and it will sound like your name. He called my name in the dark, and now he calls yours. Return to the Gospels. Return to truth. Return to Christ. The time is now. Choose. And as this vow leaves my lips for the last time, I give it to you as seed and fire, as warning and as hope. Carry it into your days. Carry it into your nights. Let it disturb you until it awakens you. Let it burn you until it saves you. The time is now. Choose. Remember. And if you will walk this path with me, if you will not let the fire die, then join us here at Near Death Diaries. Subscribe, share, bear witness with us, not to my story alone, but to the ancient story, the one written in blood and light, the one that calls us all home. The truth must be told. The time is now. Choose.